So beating boredom can reduce symptoms and increase vitality if you have ME, CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID and related conditions. So in this live video, I'm going to talk about three things. Firstly, why boredom can worsen symptoms, strategies that can reduce boredom that can actually reduce symptoms, and why these strategies can help you heal. So if you're watching live, just leave me a comment. If you're watching the replay, just put hashtag replay. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat. So very briefly, my name's Simon Pimenta. I had ME, CFS and fibromyalgia for 8 or 9 years. I went from not being able to walk for 1 minute to being able to work full time, live an active life, do sport again. Did have an injury a while back, which has slowed me down a bit, but life is still great. I create lots of free videos and resources, so do check out my playlists and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Do follow me if you're watching elsewhere. So let's get straight into it. Why boredom can worsen symptoms. So I've trained in an approach called the Mind-Body Reconnect, or MBR, developed by Claire Caldwell. And according to the MBR, your emotional brain, you have two intelligences, your emotional brain and your thinking brain. Your emotional brain wants you to feel safe and fulfilled. So for someone with ME, CFS, long COVID related conditions, this creates a conflict between feeling safe and fulfilled. Because it's understandable if you feel you can't trust your body because your body isn't working in the way it should be. And that it's understandable if you're therefore cautious about doing activity. You may fear that doing certain activities will deplete your energy. So not doing activity is going to keep you safe, but it won't help you feel fulfillment. It won't help you experience fulfillment. So it is definitely important to avoid pushing yourself too hard when your energy is fickle. And the problem for many people with ME/CFS is that they tend to do too much when they have energy. Let me know if that describes you. That certainly describes me when I had ME/CFS and fibromyalgia. Whenever I had energy, I tended to overdo it. And then this resulted in me having to be inactive. So Andy says, hi, an extended vacation in Germany cured my CFS. Constant stimulation at a relaxed level works. Thanks for your input, Andy. That's great to hear that you have recovered, and love to know more about that. So maybe if you like, we could have a chat. So we can get caught up in a loop, okay, where we're inactive, we have energy, we get active, we overdo it, and then that results us being inactive again. Okay, so consider though, if you're avoiding doing something when you have the capacity, your emotional brain is going to generate emotions and symptoms. This is how your emotional brain works. It lets you know when something doesn't feel good in some way. Simple examples of that: when we're cold, we put extra clothing on. That's if we're in touch with our body. If we feel thirsty, we have a drink. If someone communicates to you in a way that doesn't feel okay, your nervous system registers that. Okay, your emotional brain is communicating this doesn't feel good in some way. So if you're not feeling fulfilled, you're going to feel restless or frustrated because your emotional brain wants you to feel safe and fulfilled. Okay, it's not just one or the other. So if you do feel restless or frustrated, this puts your body in an agitated state, in a state of fight, flight, and it uses up energy. I just want to share some slides to illustrate the point. Imagine if you got some energy, but you do more activity than the energy, then that's going to lead to an energy overdraft. Similarly, even if you're not doing any activity, but there's lots of anxiety, that can deplete your energy. So consider someone might do some activity and they might be doing it at a level that, you know, is not using up all their energy, but they are also generating a lot of anxiety about doing the activity, and that can tip them over the edge, so therefore they still end up in an energy overdraft. Now, similarly, if we're experiencing lots of frustration, more frustration than we have energy, that's going to lead it to an energy overdraft as well. However, if we do some activity in a way that feels sustainable, you know, we're listening to our body and pausing when we recognize, again, our emotional brain is communicating that maybe there's something about what we're doing that's not quite right, it's possible that we can actually still have some energy in the tank, okay? And actually, there are times when we do a bit of activity, it can actually boost our energy, okay? I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. So consider that if you're feeling bored, then actually that is a good sign. If you're feeling restless, then that is a good sign. The reason is there was a time when I had CFS that I had no energy whatsoever. And so I didn't even have any energy to be bored, all right? So when I started feeling bored and restless, then actually that was a sign that I had more capacity. Consider that if you're feeling bored, you know, that is a call to action. Okay, so let's explore strategies to reduce boredom that can actually reduce symptoms. I talk about the CFS formula, and I got the idea of this acronym CFS from Lindsay Vine. Some of you may know her. She has a podcast called, what's it called? My brain's gone dead. Oops, my alarm's gone off. Post Viral, and her acronym for CFS is coziness, fun and somatics, and she says these are 3 things to focus on each day. All right, my acronym, okay, is connection, fun and stimulation. So I encourage you to look for things that you can do to bring a bit of connection, fun and stimulation into your life. Now, you might just do them for really short periods to begin with. By doing that, you're teaching your mind, your body, your physiology that you are safe, and it's safe to do a bit of what you fancy. A little example of that, when I first drove to a meditation class, the first time I did it, I felt a little bit anxious. Even though it was well within my capacity to drive to this venue, to lie down and do some meditation, have a little bit of social time in the tea break, and then I left after the tea break, whereas other people stayed to carry on meditating. And after a while of doing that, I felt completely relaxed about doing that. Okay, so it's important to teach your mind, your body, your physiology that you're safe. Now, if I'd felt super anxious about even driving to the venue and doing meditation, I might have just driven. I might have driven to the venue and come back, done that a few times, and then when I felt confident about staying, I would have. I didn't feel I needed to do that, but that's a smaller step that I could have taken. I talk about this step-by-step approach, okay? So for example, if someone's goal is to go and sit in a cafe with a friend, they might break it down into much smaller steps. First of all, just sit in the car for a bit, then drive to the cafe and then drive home, and then drive to the cafe, get a cup of tea or coffee, come home. And when they felt comfortable, to then go in the cafe on their own, have a coffee, come home. And when they felt comfortable with that, meet their friend for a coffee, maybe just for a short period of time. Again, we're just training the mind, the body, the physiology, that we are safe. Consider the more relaxed you are about doing an activity, the less energy you're using. Okay, so that's why it's really good to start small. If the idea of doing something results in you generating anxiety. So I have made videos on approaching activities and movement. So check out the playlists on movement and energy. So consider, what are some small steps you can take to bring a bit of connection, fun, stimulation into your life. It might be listening to an audiobook, podcast, radio show or music for a certain amount of time. Might be listening to guided relaxation, doing some stretching, doing some visualization, doing a crossword puzzle, doing a hobby. Maybe it's knitting or crochet. For me, my hobby at the time when I had CFS was playing the guitar. And what I noticed is I deprived myself of playing the guitar, something that gives me pleasure. And so when I picked the guitar up, I'd end up playing for too long. I'd end up playing for 40 minutes, an hour, and then I'd feel depleted. What I realised is I just needed to make sure I pick up the guitar every day, even if it was just for a minute or 5 minutes, just to play a nice chord. And by doing that, there was less of the tendency to binge on guitar playing because I was feeding that need. Okay? And I've mentioned before when I was poorly, but was able to do a little bit. I do 1 minute of Qigong once, 3 times, 5 times a day, and my body seemed to benefit from it. So use your judgment and do what feels comfortable for you. Remember, you don't need to push yourself. Even doing something just for 1 minute is a good place to start. So let me know, what are some things that you could do to just give yourself a bit of connection, fun, stimulation. So why these strategies can help you heal? Well, when you start listening to your emotional brain will register that you're listening and attempting to take appropriate action. And it will stop sending those signals of frustration. Consider how many times has something happened. Maybe you've received a phone call or you're doing an activity and you get engrossed in that and you do it for a little while, not too long. You listen to your body and you feel better for doing that. So remember, it's really important to listen to our body. When our body starts communicating, okay, that's enough now. Some of us have had the tendency to override those signals that the emotional brain is telling us, because we've been deprived of the connection, fun, stimulation. So for example, I remember managing to go on holiday and it was a kind of centre where lots of people came, and I was so enjoying the contact with other people. I kept overdoing it, kept having to go and rest, and then every mealtime I'd spend too long chatting to people, overdo it, have to rest, okay? And I'd get quite excited as well because of the human contact. So I needed to learn to just regulate myself a bit more. Okay, so a great little question to ask yourself regularly, if you find you're not very good at listening to your body, is this depleting or boosting my energy? I love playing the piano. I'm learning to play the piano at the moment. It's just behind me. And I could spend too long on the piano, and sometimes in the evening when I've played the piano, I've been a bit tired, and I find it useful just to set a reminder on my phone to say, okay, I'll maybe play the piano for 15 minutes, because I know if I play for too long, then I'll end up going to bed feeling a little bit overtired, which I don't need to do. And I need to make time. And I need to make time to do it because it's something that makes me happy. All right? So consider that question. Is this depleting or boosting my energy? So I'd love to know, what is your key takeaway from what I've shared? And what is one piece of action you can take? Let me know. As I say, do leave a comment in the chat of ideas you have for connection, fun, stimulation, because your ideas might help somebody else. So if you'd like more tips, do join my Facebook group. I'll put the link below this video. If you're watching on YouTube, do subscribe, hit the notification button. You'll be notified of more content. And if you've got any questions, then leave them in chat. Leave them in the chat. As I say, I have trained in the mind-body reconnect. If you'd like to know more about this approach, comment MBR below and I'll send you a PDF with some information about that approach. If you do want help now and you'd like to have a free chat where we can explore what you need, then put chat in the comments and I'll send you a link where you can book a half-hour slot, no charge for that, no obligation. And if, as I say, if you've got any questions, get in touch. So dare to dream, keep going, you've got this. Wishing you great health. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video. Bye for now.